This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the Riptide. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Ciao, homebrew community.
What's up, my homie brewers?
This is TC, Travis Campbell.
And I'm Big Mike Persine, and you're listening to Brew Strong.
Brew Strong. All right, it's Travis and Mike here again while Jamil's away. We're going to do another Q&A today. And as previously warned, but if you're like me, sometimes you roll backwards. The quality of the humor will definitely drop off in Jamil's absence, but we're going to try to keep the technicalities up really high. Do our best on that one. And we'll work on the humor too. I mean, try to put in some more dick jokes, talk about, I don't have a medical corner or none I'd like to share, but if you ever come up with a medical corner, you could throw one in, Mike.
I got a dead toenail. I was going to say, I want to channel my inner 13-year-old. So get ready for some immaturity.
All right. And as usual, I want y'all to keep in mind, Blickman Engineering, they bring you this show, they pay for it, so you don't have to. Although when you do pay for it, Justin appreciates that also. You're supporting the Brewing Network both ways. So, we had Drew on a show not that long ago. Drew is the current president operating.
Awesome guy.
Absolutely, huh? Operating Blickman. And go catch that show. It's not a commercial. It's a great discussion with a guy who's really supporting us homebrewers. And don't be jealous because he makes pro stuff too. We all grow up to that one day, we hope.
I would say it's a great look at behind the scenes of their operation. You're going to get some Blickman Inside Baseball. That podcast is for you. Absolutely.
And if you're not using any Blickman gear, I don't know how the hell you're making it through your brew day. And if you are, you know how great the products are. I mean, and I don't know what they don't make, honestly. I think about what I have in my house. They don't have the Blickman igloo.
But yeah, they should start making like just everyday stuff. Like I want a Blickman innovating your brew day coffee or something. But I was going to talk a little about my Rims Rocket.
Yeah.
It's this amazing product. I bought the 110 one, and I'm doing 10-gallon batches with a 110 volt, and I can step a mash in a matter of minutes. It's awesome, super straightforward, low watt density on the coil, so scorching your mash is not a concern. Just a really great product. I mean, built like a stainless steel shit house. This is rated PG-13. I can say that.
Yeah, so until Justin tells us no, let's keep with it.
I really do love that product. It was one of the first things I bought. So when I was for my 10-gallon size brew house, I was like, I really want one of those. I was really intrigued by Rims technology over Herms and direct fire and direct heating, because I really wanted that precision and control of my mash, and it definitely brought it. So, and it's kind of nice at the 110. It's a lower voltage. If you've got a 15 amp outlet, I mean, boom, you're in game. So you don't have to have 230 stuff. You can run it on regular plugs, which I thought was pretty intriguing to me as well. So that's my little plug for my Blickman of the week.
Very cool. I like that. All right. So you want to tell us about this toenail now, or you want to save that for later?
Want to tell me about what?
About this toenail.
Oh, yeah. I was wearing a pair of shoes, and I don't know what happened, but now they're purple. The one is purple. I think it's dead. I haven't touched. I'm just in denial. So this is Mike's medical corner / shame fest. What else I got?
I don't think we're ready to finish that.
I think that's good enough. Let's call it.
All right.
Let me cut this out, Justin.
if I didn't mention it, this is Q&A, and if you're listening live, this is the second one in a row. And if you're not, it's been 2 weeks since you heard our wonderful voices, but we're glad you joined us anyway. All right, so let's start off with a short question. I had one queued up. There it goes. All right. Matt writes in, "Hey guys, love the show. I was listening to the archives and enjoyed one on kit brewing. You were saying not to add the LME until the end of the boil. You said to start with DME. What if the kit only comes with LME? I have a kettle to do full boil. Should I just shorten the boil? Then I wasn't sure what to do about the hop additions and the specialty grains that got steeped. I think the long boil might be the reason the first batch that I brewed came out so dark for light ale. I enjoyed the shows, and they were instrumental in me deciding to brew." Matt. All right, so Mike, when's the last time you brewed with extract as an extract style brew day?
So I have a deep dark secret. I'm a malt extract virgin. I've only ever used it to make starters.
Interesting.
I took brewery science at UC Davis and learned all grain brewing from the start. So that was my first experience brewing, was in a laboratory environment, I guess, or like a practical, they have the big pilot brewery there at Davis. And so I actually never used malt extract other than for starters. And I really don't have a whole lot to input on this. So I'll leave it to you.
All right, so let's see how I can mangle this question and what answers I can come up with then. So Matt, I have not brewed with extract in quite a while, other than I do keep some DME on hand, trying to hit my targets. Sometimes if I'm like a point low here and there, I'll add some DME because I don't know, for some reason I'm stuck on this beer is going to be 9%. It's going to be 9%, damn it, if not 9.5. No way it's going to be 8.8. So I did not go back and listen to that show to try to determine, but I can tell you, when I was doing extract with largely liquid, very little dry, I didn't delay on adding it. I can see how if you're doing a reduced volume boil, that thick could be problematic, to be honest with you. If you're doing a 3-gallon boil for a 5-gallon beer and then you add a lot of this goopy liquid, that boil is going to want to jump out the pot on you. It's the same thing as making a very huge beer. The viscosity of the wort is just problematic. So that could be good advice for adding that liquid malt extract late versus early. Better advice would be, let's get better at brewing and do a full volume boil, and then you don't have to worry about it. And then let's get one step further and go to all grain, largely because you have the control. Also, Jamil has proven you can make extract beer, outstanding beer, but you have to know that your extract is fresh. It doesn't age the same as a sack of grain. A sack of grain, you can hang on to it for a while. You can't sit on your extracts. So
especially LME, I've heard, is very finicky.
Liquid, yes,
extract, yeah,
exactly.
That stuff will go bad quick.
Yeah, it changes. If you want to say it's bad or good, it's not changing in a good way, Mike.
Right.
But so I would get past the need of that in general. But if you're doing the liquid, you have to be concerned about how viscous you're making your wort, because it's going to not be a fun boil, and you're going to hold a lot of heat in. You're going to heat stress your wort. These are all things that are far too complicated for someone who's using liquid to be concerned with. If you're asking questions, like, you're ready to go to the next step. So I would say, let's go to the next step and put it behind us. Otherwise, don't worry about the why as you're doing it, as long as you're making decent beer. And if you're a kit brewer, if you're an extract brewer and you're making decent beer, that's probably good enough. I mean, it'd be good enough for me. I gave you more opinion than answer on this one, and I apologize, Matt, if that's not exactly what you were looking for.
Yeah.
Don't shorten the boil. I mean, when I think of it, I brew hoppy styles, and most of those hoppy styles have bittering hops. So I'm looking at a 60-minute boil minimum on everything I do. I can't shorten that. You know, if I'm brewing that style of beer. So yeah,
I was gonna say, you know, in terms of like the DME and LME freshness as a thing, I like to think of malt as like kind of coffee. So when you buy coffee roasted, ready to go, whole bean, that stuff keeps way better, right? Like it doesn't get all stale and gross and taste weird and start to not be good to make coffee with. I believe it's the same exact thing with barley malt. The second you crack that malt or you process it further than its natural kind of husked state, you're on the clock, and you really want to make sure if you are still doing DME or LME that you're getting it fresh. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe a lot of the award-winning beers Jamil would make was with only DME. I don't believe he used a whole lot of LME. So I've also heard mixed reviews on using LME. Go ahead. What?
I don't think he was competing when he was playing around with it. It was I believe he was already pro, and he decided to prove to himself that he could make great beer with kits.
Okay.
So he did.
I remember hearing because that's kind of why brewing classic styles is all those recipes are in extract recipes, because they will win awards even with extract. So, but as far as I remember off the top of my head, looking through that book, and I've read most of it just because I've tried to brew every one, I don't see a whole lot of LME. I think he's more on the DM, and I could be wrong. We should ask him when he comes back. But.
Yeah. So another way to break it down, most of the times LME is your base malt, and your DME is all your colored malts. I don't know if that's intentional, but usually what you'll see, like I buy Breeze Pilsen Light to use in my starters, and that's the same thing I'll use if I'm one or two low on my gravity. Breeze Pilsen Light, the lightest that exists. But if you want to make a Doppelbock, the Munich extract, that's a liquid. You can't get it in a powder.
Okay. So
you find that your more specialty grain extracts, and they're all blends, they're going to be your liquids. And you can get your base grains as liquids also, but usually if it's a dry extract, it's going to be a base grain extract. Right. So Matt, if you're going to follow the advice, follow it to the T. If you don't have an LME and a DME, add it where the advice stated, and don't worry about it unless you think it's causing a problem for you on your beer. And keep brewing, man. And that's how we take the shortest questions and make them into long questions.
Long story long.
All right. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with more of your questions.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
And we're back.
What's up? I'm Mike. I talk about beer. I like drinking it.
Yeah.
My toes purple.
We don't know why yet. We're going to revisit when we get the why on that one.
All right,
Something about the shoes. We hear from Alex as follows. Hello, guys of the shows, in parentheses, shows. I've just started listening, so there's a lot of catching up to do. My questions are related to storing your beer. Jamil mentioned that he puts his beer up for months, if not years. So I know he was doing it in a converted shed at one point. Where is he storing it now? At the brewery? If he is storing your beer in corny kegs, how often is he checking them to see if they've come into peak freshness? I'm assuming he is storing them under proper carbonation pressure and checking on that pressure every now and then. How do you draw off samples? Just hook up a Cobra tap and try a taster? Thanks for any help you can offer. Signing up for the BN Army now. That's right, Justin. Alex is your guy. Cheers, Alex. All right, I'm going to add one preamble to this, Mike, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Jamil said, brew your big beers big and your hoppy beers and smaller beers small and drink them fast. He wasn't sitting on IPAs for 9 months to 9 years. So, Mike, give us your thoughts on selling beer in general and anywhere you'd like to approach this.
Well, for me, my beer doesn't stick around too long. I am a avid beer drinker, so I would say there are certain styles that do love a longer rest. Those dark beers, like you're talking about, big beers, love that to lay them down almost like wine and let them just age. And kind of like if you listen to the episode before this, we were talking about aging beers and how that can help mature flavors and bring the beer into focus, if you will. And so I think the big alcohol, big color, beers. Some people throw them in a barrel. They sell little 5-gallon barrels you can do too, and lay it down for 8 months, and you can end up with this barrel aged stout or barley wine. So I'm all for that. I mean, but like you said, with light lagers, light beers, light ales, hoppy beers. I mean, especially hoppy beers, I can speak to. They do have a very short life because those hop flavors are very, very volatile and they don't last very long and they tend to really fade after a certain point. So you want to make sure that you're not allowing that to happen and either sharing it or consuming it in a timely manner. I'd say if you're keeping it in a keg, make sure you're not leaving it tapped because that's going to ruin it. I would say if you're canning, bottling, no longer than 4 to 6 months if you're able to keep them refrigerated properly. So kind of they start to run out of gas, they start to lose flavor, get pretty bland, lose their aroma. So
Mike, would you prefer to age in a corny or would you prefer to age packaged?
See, I like to age in a keg because I can taste it and check it, and I'm not using a whole can or something. And I like that if you do unhook it from the beer tap and you kind of if you can leave it on CO2 and you trust you're not leaking your CO2 everywhere, you can really maintain the freshness of that in a stainless steel vessel. That's where I leave it, and that's where I age all my beers is in the keg. But when they go in the can, I try to that's what I want it to taste like when you open it.
Yep.
I'm locking it in because usually they're going to get shaken, they're going to get messed around, they're going to warm up, cool down, and you don't really want to have them in the middle of their aging process where they could leave a bunch of sediment or things in the bottom. I'm a big guy on I hate when I get to the bottom of a beer and there's a bunch of stuff in the bottom of a can. So
yeah,
that's me though. That's a personal thing. So, but that's kind of what my way of doing it.
So that's great advice, Mike. Let me build on that a little bit here and there, and also give you some feedback on some of what Alex had asked. So one thing at Heretic, the second location, the big location, his real brewery versus his shared proprietorship brewery, they had a very large cold room, full of beer for distribution and full of beer for aging. Uh, I mean, drive a forklift in it, cold room, very nice, in the back of the brewery. So that's how he was storing beer, at Heretic. That wasn't in a barrel. I mean, I can't tell you in the few times I've made it to the brewery that I've ever seen packaged beer at room temp. That wasn't a thing unless he was packing enough to go out the door. Like wrapping some kegs, wrapping some cases, stuff like that to go out the door. Okay, so let's get to storing in corny kegs versus packaging. I don't mind bottling a beer that I'm going to age and letting it age. Uh, but it gets tricky if you're going to compete with it because you are going to get a sediment. And if it's a tight sediment at the bottom, shouldn't bother anybody. But if it's not so tight, someone's pouring that in their glass and that's what they're judging your beer by. So aging before bottling, if you can, is advisable. If you can't, you can't. Package it up, set it aside. Maybe you want to bottle off a 12 pack and keep it at room temp to let some aging happen. And you don't want to do your whole keg that way, or you don't want to bring your keg into that room where it could make a mess.
Yeah.
So they'll both work, but you are going to settle out better in a corny and then package off a cleaner beer. And carbonation pressure. My kegs hold good pressure, most of them. So I can top them off and let them store. And I have a freezer that's not quite a Keyser. It's not tapped. It's just beer storage. And I charge them up and I leave them in there. And they only get low on pressure as I tap them to pull a pint off. So store them carved. You want to keep as much out. And, corny kegs, as crappy as they can be, the more pressure you keep on them, the better they keep pressure. You have to keep pressure against those seals for them to seal up sometimes because these cornies are older than us sometimes. These ones that are putting our beer in. These, cornies we picked up.
Yep, they can be.
Unless you spend money on the brand new ones. Draw samples. Yeah. I have 2 Cobra taps that I keep that I pop on, pull a sample as I want to sample it. Or as I call it, draw a pint and drink it. That's my samples. Yeah. Couple Cobra taps that I swap around keg to keg, pull a sample, pop it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alex, many ways you can go there, and it's not going to go wrong. And a little bit of insight to what was happening. And if you didn't make it to Heretic, sorry you didn't make it because it's still there. It's not Jamil's anymore. It was quite the brewery. And my understanding is it's in really good hands these days. He's they're on their 3rd ownership now. And
yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I was going to say one last caveat. Bottle conditioning. Obviously, you're trying to do all of your aging and conditioning in the bottles. So that's a total, that is where you want to do that. Some people don't have kegs. So then the sediment's kind of required. But honestly, my best results with Hefeweizen was when I bottle conditioned. So some beers really respond well to bottle conditioning. So there's also that to consider.
If they pour your hef, or somebody pours your hef in a glass, and the hef is hazy, well, gee, that's what I wanted. No big deal.
Right.
So disturbing a little bit of sediment, keeping some sediment in there, because even a hef's going to fall brighter than you think over time. It's not going to stay quite that. When they serve them in Germany, they mix them up a little bit.
Yeah, I've been unable to produce a colloidal haze with any kind of Hefeweizen. I think the wheat fraction's way too high. If you're doing one that's true German.
First hef, and I'll keep this short, I think. First hef, I only have maybe I've had in Germany. I've had a lot of beer in Germany, but most of it's not Bavarian styles. And first hef I had in Germany about 1995. And as the bottle was getting towards the bottom, and it was like it looked like a malt liquor bottle almost. It was a very interesting bottle. I don't know. So they put it on the side. They did the rolling action, and he topped it off. So there's no telling how non-colloidal that beer might have been had he not disturbed it. But that was part of his process.
Yeah, a lot of people will. Yeah, I when I even do it with my cans, I store them upside down for hef. The
There you
cans
go.
are upside down, and everybody's like,
Mhm.
"What the hell is upside down?" It's like, nope, that's because I think to be true to the style, the haze is definitely not as permanent as my hazy. So
Agreed.
yeah.
All right. Uh, Kevin writes, "Hey guys, just moved into Dixon, California, or Canada.
Hey, that's right where Canada or
I don't
California.
CA. Sounds like it's California because I don't know. It's
All
California.
right, Dixon's like 5 minutes away from Davis.
There you go.
Yeah, I know where
Okay,
that
so
is.
yeah, I am looking to get a brew set up again after selling off a 3 vessel kegel system. Military family with several moves left me no choice but to downsize. Thank you for your service, Kevin.
Yeah.
I've been seeing several automated brew in a bag systems hit the market in the past couple of years and wondered if you have already done a side by side comparison. I think it might make for a good show. There are Cadillacs, mid range, and economics. Cheers, Kevin. So, Kevin, it would be a show or shows to go through all the details of all the brew in the bags. So, I think we can handle this with a question in the Q&A rather than doing a full on show on it. Mike, did you ever use a single vessel system?
I've used them with friends that have them. Like I've used the Brazilla a couple times. My
So
one buddy
I
has
think,
a Spike Solo, stuff like
yeah,
that. Most of them are the basket type single
yeah, yeah.
vessels.
So
Yeah.
I think if I start on this, you're going to have some good input on it because it's Kevin's asking specifically about the all in ones, and this is a bigger question. Uh, the short answer is they all offer something, and it depends on what you want to do with them. So if I mean we could do some YouTube gold where I compared the most expensive all in one to the cheapest all in one and said how the cheap one's crap just like you expected and the most expensive one that they sent me for free, oh that one's gorgeous. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they all have their pluses or minuses. And I went through this personally because I use the Anvil, and the Anvil price wise is mid range. Quality wise, I would say no. And Kevin does list a few brands and he classifies them, but his classifications are really about the cost of the unit than the value of the unit. Because I've brewed with friends on a Grainfather. I brewed in England on the Braumeister, and I brew all the time on my Anvil. And I have the world's cheapest HLT that I love because it just heats water. It works. It's perfect. So you've got to figure out what bells and whistles you want. And, I wish I had a good metaphor or, like when I talk about if your guitar's got built in wah, I don't know. Does any guitar have built in wah? What features do you need? What I needed for me, I wanted a unit that would do 120 and 240. That was one of my deciding factors, and that's Anvil. I
Yeah.
don't know other units you can buy 120 or 240. The Anvil is a flick of a switch. So if you might brew, like how cold it is by your place, Mike, you might brew in your kitchen in the winter, which my God, I'd be divorced. But then you might brew in your garage in the
Yeah. No.
summer,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So maybe you need 120 in the winter, and you want your 240 in the summer, and that's your deciding factor. Well, I didn't have a 240 outlet ready when I bought it, but I didn't want to limit myself, so I bought the 120 240 unit.
Yeah.
Maybe you like the way one unit circulates versus another. I mean, like I said, I brewed on the Braumeister. Jamil and I, we did this neat thing at a place I can't remember the name of, and he would. It was a shop in England where you went and you paid and you brewed, and you could either come back in 2 weeks and get some of your beer, or you could take some homebrew somebody else brewed previously. And there were 10 Braumeisters set up, and then one just, I can't remember how we were heating it, but it was a 10-gallon system where we brewed a barley wine, and we treated this system like an all-in-one. We mashed in what looked like a 80 quart, 100 quart pot. We ran it off. We dumped it. We put it back in the pot, and we boiled it. Um, I got stories about it that are sidetracked. Maybe we'll get towards the end of this question because it was a fun, interesting evening. But those Braumeisters didn't seem that they had any advantage to a Grainfather. And this question Grandfather, they keep upgrading their equipment. They keep adding features, Bluetooth, all this kind of stuff. Another feature I like is I like the ability to set my heater up on delay. I used to use a timer and some relays to do that with my sparge water in the past. But when you're doing it with your own home built parts, it's a bit more involved than if I can buy something where I can just put it in delay mode and come back out and my water's warm in the morning. So that was a feature I wanted. So it boils down to what features do you need to get through your brew day, what's worth you paying for. And the reason why, Mike, I think you'll have some input is, first off, you brewed on 2 disparate systems. And second off, this applies to any kit, whether you're building it from scratch, whether you're buying it tiered. So
yeah. Well, for me, I'm an engineer, so I always try to approach things the way I would from an engineer's perspective, and you are too. So I know you were kind of getting there. For me, it's like I kind of go out and look at what's out there and what are the options on the different brands and the different things. And then you kind of, that's kind of your review of the available technologies, right? This is what we're doing in engineering and consulting and stuff. And then I kind of go, well, what are my priorities? What are my have tos? What are my want tos? What's my budget? Kind of where you're at. And, I was thinking as you were talking, you could buy these all-in-ones, but you can go all the way down to, you've got like you said, your 15-gallon stock pot that people buy to do crawfish crawfish boils. You got your crawfish boil burner, and you go buy a big bag of the big brewing bags. And that's the original brew in a bag, right? Where it's one vessel with your malts in a bag, and you pull the malt out. And some people do pulleys, some people do different ways of holding it above the thing, and just you do what's called a full volume mash where there's no sparge. And so you could do that. I mean, that's about as cheap as you can go on single vessel, but then it goes up from there. And then you kind of got to think about the features you want, like the amount of control that you'd like TC was saying. So for me, the systems I've used, I've really enjoyed the baskets, like where you can just pick it up and then you set it on its little ledges, and then you don't need any other mechanisms. You don't need to be a professional weightlifter, and it kind of makes it like you can just wait. And then even like the Brewzilla has a function where you can sparge, or you can recirculate to rinse the grain with the volume of the water, so that it kind of gets away from that no sparge to kind of like a mash rinse with the wort, and then some people you can even sparge with those setups where they have pumps and different things you can do. I really enjoyed the Spike Solo, but that is one of the more Cadillac systems where it has, you've got a basket, it's got a separate pump, and then it has a really nice control panel that you can really tinker with and set up to control your mash and your boil, almost like a pro would, in terms of the screens and the.
Is that 2 larger pots? Is that similar to the Brew Easy?
No, it's more. It's kind of similar to like a Brewzilla, where it's got the basket that sits in the single vessel, and then you pick it up and set it on it. But then it's more of like a true kettle, where the basket is also really nice stainless steel piece, and then they actually have their it's got a separate centrifugal pump. It's got heating elements that are easily accessible, which I know some of the other Solo systems you can't do.
No,
things like that, and that's where I'd highly encourage people to go out and cruise around and don't get fixated on one, and really see what's out there, and then decide what you would like, and then kind of decide what you can afford, and then whittle it down. I do that with pretty much everything I buy. Is you got to make those decisions between, I want this, but I really only need this, and then my wife will divorce me if I buy this one,
right?
That's so I better not. Like, yeah, it's like, everybody wants that. What is the Blickman Tower of Power? But you got to bring the Tower of Money.
Yeah,
it's not too bad, but it's different than if you got their single vessel anvil. It's just you got to make decisions. So.
At one point in time, those two were the same price. The Tower of Power was the same price as the anvil. Foundry.
No, Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I love my anvil. If I had to replace it, I would go back with what I have because
Like buy
again,
another one.
yeah. And if I go back to 10 gallons, I'm going to have to look at their larger anvil because
Yeah.
I'm so used to electric brewing and I'm so used to that system. I'm so used to be able to preset that time. I don't need Bluetooth. I mean, that's always neat. I mean, I can turn on fans and lights with my phone and stuff like that. I don't need to turn on my homebrew system. You may decide you need to. Maybe you set your alarm for 4 o'clock and you turn your heater on,
Yeah.
element on, and you go back to sleep. But no, with the adjustable power and actually the digital control of the power, it's 0 to 100%.
Right.
It's not a built-in pump, and I like that because that means if the pump dies, it's easily fixed or replaced. It's also easily accessed for cleaning.
Yeah.
But
No, and like for me, I like data logging. Like I really like to have that data that I can, if I brew the same beer again, I can compare them and make sure that I was hitting. And then I like, just in general, temperatures and times and posterity. I'm a big on reproducibility. These kind of more engineering things. I don't know. I have like terrible habits, OCD. So that's why I built mine the way I did. But it is it is kind of your preference.
So getting back, so Kevin, I'd love to give you a tighter advice. I'd love to tell you exactly what to buy. And Drew would love for me to tell you, hey, man, you got to buy the anvil.
So buy the anvil. No, just kidding.
But if we run into each other one day, we could have a chat, and you can tell me what you're looking for in your system, and I can help you figure out which ones meet your needs because it's not what's best. It's like a car. I mean, Chevy guys hate Fords, and Ford guys hate Chevys. I'm an Infinity guy. It's a preference thing,
No, and it's a features thing. I think a lot of what you're saying too is like there's something that is going to really like the 110 to 220 for you. That was a big feature that you were really loving, and I think that's something that the different brands have their different things. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I think we've answered that one well enough. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break, and we're right back at it with a few more questions. And all you gentlemen and gentle ladies in the chat, hit us with some questions. Even though I think,
hit me with your best shot. I'll sing.
Yeah. All right.
No, I won't. Maybe I will. Who knows? You got to ask the question.
If you want us to sing, we'll sing. If you don't want us to sing, we might sing anyway.
I mean, you got to just.
That was good, Mike. All right, let's take this break.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit servicenow.com.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
And we're back. All right. So, Mike, we discussed your toenail. I think that was fine. And last show, you guys missed out, especially if you're not watching live. Mike makes outstanding NEPAs among other beers, and he's really been working on his effort in that. And he gave us a nice showcase, not a flavor, mind you, but a review of his latest. Do you call it a pale hazy pale or pale?
I call it a hazy pale ale.
Hazy pale.
I didn't want to call it juicy pale ale because I used 100% Simcoe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hazy beer. It has the same kind of water profile and body and smoothness of a hazy IPA. Lower alcohol, a little more chill. But then I loved how the Simcoe played with the thiolized yeast. I used Cosmic Punch thiolizing yeast. We'll do a show on that maybe sometime soon. But kind of added that little bit of like, hey, this is a Simcoe beer. I can tell, but if I didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't have picked it as 100% Simcoe because of the thiolizing. So very interesting flavors. I was going to send you one, TC, send you a couple maybe.
Please.
Yeah. And I actually named it. I call it Simcoe is Live.
Nice.
Simcoe is Live. Because
I
just like that name. So
yeah. I'm a fan of that hop. I'd love to see how it turned out with the biotransforming thiolizing yeast. I think and I've used those yeasts, but I haven't looked hard enough at the data. They start off with a yeast that's
British Ale 5 Boddington's. British Ale 5 is the Omega name, but it's Boddington's.
Okay, so I think that yeast before they thiolized it is already the beta-liase, the linalool citrin, linalool geraniol. So it already has that biotransformation towards citrus, and then they thiolize it, so it gives you the sulfur compounds also.
Yep.
And I hate that we call it sulfur compounds because the sulfur compounds we're most familiar with stink. But
that's why I call them thiols.
Right.
Yeah, I don't sulfur compounds. I always say like DMS and vegetable and cabbage. Yeah, H2S.
Boiled eggs.
But no, I have one right here. It still doesn't have a label yet. I got to get them going, but I think you'll like it. It's very surprising. I bought because my homebrew store they'll special order you yeast, but you got to order at least 5.
Oh wow!
So I did all 5 of them were Cosmic Punch. I was like, I'm just gonna do like 3 or 4 beers all in a row. And so
you're not repitching on those, then, are you?
No, see, I don't really have I don't brew as fast as I probably would have to really make repitching work for me.
Especially right now, you should take a break over winter.
Yeah, and I have before, but I just, kind of got to where I always stuck by what Jamil said about repitching and yeast management is a whole nother hobby. And so I kind of wanted to make sure that I was focusing on brewing and fermenting and the recipe formulation stuff. And like I said, I'm only doing one beer at a time. Mm-hmm. I'm not really racking and stacking them. So I just kind of pitch them. I'll start them and then pitch them. And then, I usually don't save, but
you're doing 10-gallon batches though, right?
Yeah. So yes. I'm usually doing starters. I'm popping them up and getting them to where I want them to be. And so I did that double hazy. I did a double hazy, and then I did this hazy pale ale, and then the last one I'm going to try is a thiolized cream ale with Nelson.
Nice.
I'm going crazy.
I just kind of want to do it in the 3.5 to 4.5% range. You're going to do like more of an imperial cream, something a little bigger.
No, I was going to do real light, 5%, probably 30% corn. Mm-hmm. And then the Cosmic Punch, and then I wasn't going to dry hop it, but I was going to definitely do a pretty big whirlpool of Nelson and try to see where we end up. I kind of was stepping from as juicy as I can go to let's see what's weird with Simcoe, and then let's do a thiolized blonde ale with Cosmic Punch.
I like it.
So I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I was talking to some pro brewers about this, and they're like, they kind of get all like, so you just do whatever you want? And I'm like, yeah, man.
Fun conversation, yeah.
Yeah, those guys, they're on schedules. They got to hit their numbers. They got to get beer out the door. And I'm just like, I'm just playing around, I'm like, do whatever I want.
I've had about half as many collabs or less than I would have had if they didn't always have to have a schedule. Like, oh man, I'd love to brew this beer. Like, oh, I'd love to brew it with you. I got to figure out when to fit it in the schedule.
Right. That's always the thing. They're like, oh, I'd love to make this. And then you never hear from them again. Or they're just so busy every time.
Yep.
So, yeah, I get it though. I mean, that's where I kind of, us homebrewers have it made, man.
We do.
Yeah.
All right. So Luke says, hey guys, just want to start by saying love the show. Sorry. Started out brewing 2 years ago using the pre-hopped kits. Got into all grain about a year ago and learned basically everything I know from listening to this show. That's outstanding. Have recently had a discussion about dry hopping with a few brew buddies and was given this link. Could I get your thoughts on the results in this article? And this link is a Scott Janish link. Just curious, as it basically goes against everything I thought about dry hopping. Thanks, boys, all the way from Australia, and keep brewing strong, Luke. So if there were some indications here for everybody listening in, Luke, first he learned, it's a LEARNT, which you may not have heard in my voice, and also the pre-hopped kits. I hadn't seen pre-hopped kits here, but I was aware that they were available overseas. So Luke's dry hopping got flipped upside down when he read a Scott Janish article, and this is examination of studies, hopping methods, and concepts for achieving maximum hop aroma flavor by Scott Janish. And Mike, take it away.
Yeah, so I was kind of flipping through this, and yeah, it's a really good article, and I will post the link to it in our comments for this video. But pretty exciting stuff, and I've read his book, and so I haven't had time to really read through this whole thing, but kind of my interpretation of what he wrote in the new IPA was they found that they ended up with more levels of fruitiness and hop and the fruit forward flavors you want in a hazy hoppy beer were expressed better in a cold dry hop. So, I mean, we've had Scott Janish on this show, and he actually, if you look through all the shows, he did one when the book came out with Jamil and John, and pretty exciting stuff. I know Jamil's also very adamant about cold dry hopping and not during fermentation hopping. He said with his own sensory panels, he found that dry hopping during fermentation would cause harshness and grassiness kind of flavors that he, in his experience, if I remember right. But no, I think a lot of people think that, dry hopping earlier, the better, or, dry hopping for biotransformation, you have to do it, day 3 or whatever, so I think the thought of letting fermentation finish completely, harvesting yeast, and then dry hopping at a slightly colder than fermentation temperature, which for Scott Janish is 58 to 60 degrees, is pretty exciting. Very contrarian to some of the other methods out there you'll see. But I use it for all of my hazy hoppy beers. I actually use it for all my hoppy beers because I just found that dry hopping late just really brings the flavor without all that grass, and you don't have to worry about vegetal matter staying in your fermenter for 2 weeks and 10 days. That was another big consideration, is like, where does that grassy vegetal material staying? And so the other big one that I know Jamil is all about is instead of hop dipping or early dry hopping, he just loads up the whirlpool, and the concept there is those hop compounds are very they will survive high temperatures. The ones that contribute to fruitiness, at least, your linalols, your geraniols, those are monoterpene alcohols that are water soluble, so they're not going to be driven off by heat the same way that your sesquiterpenes and stuff that are like your alkenes and stuff that they're not very soluble in the water anyways, so they wouldn't really make it through any heating or stuff like off gassing. So these kind of fruity flavors can make it through the whirlpool into the finished beer, and that's where you load up, and then you leave the grassy material in your kettle when you go to transfer to your fermenter. So those are the things that I do, and that's what Scott Janish talked about. And I think that can be shocking to a lot of people who have heard dry hop at 2 days, 3 days, 5 degrees before terminal gravity, all these times you're supposed to be adding in. And in his research, he kind of found that waiting till the end is the best for what he saw. So
yeah. So one of the things, building off what you said, Jamil, I would say he preaches this, but he will advise, if you want a day 2 biotransformation effect, go back to your whirlpool, get those compounds in before you even throw your yeast on it, and then you don't have the hop matter that technically is an antibacterial, or for better definition, it's fighting your yeast anyway. And also on the pro side, which Jamil has been quite the accomplished pro, putting those hops in on day 2, that yeast is going to be thrown away. Forget about that. You're going to get the same effect from heavily whirlpooling as you would dry hopping on day 2, and you don't have to worry about disturbing your fermentation profile. So if you want your biotransformation hops in there early, get your whirlpool a little heavier. It's probably already pretty heavy anyway. And to answer Luke's question, Scott has a lot of data and a lot of experience. And I think the proof is in his product. I read his articles, and I learn from everyone that I read. He's a great follow. Keep up with him, buy his book, etc. And the one thing I don't think he said, it might, and this might be what is blowing Luke's mind. Dry hop for a day or 2, not a week or 2.
Yeah, that's a big one that a lot of people don't think about.
Right.
Or don't.
Literally.
They've heard other things. Yeah.
I used to dry hop for a week. And, oh man, I really want this one to be hoppy. Maybe I'm going to go 2 weeks. You're reabsorbing compounds the longer those hops stay in there, which is like, what? What's the whole point of being in there if it's going to reabsorb the compounds I'm trying to get out of it? My hoppiest beers, and I've made beers that are too hoppy due to hop selection, dry hop for a couple days, and then I start chilling it for a couple days, and I transfer it, and it's all separated out. And that's even, I use screens, and people say, oh, you can't get good hop aroma from screens. Let me tell you, yes, you can. It's and it makes taking easier. But yeah, so read Scott's articles for sure. See what you can glean out of it. See how you can apply it to home brewing. Pay attention to how long and when you're dry hopping, and tell me what it did to your beers, not just what it did to your head. Give us some feedback. Tell us you brewed some of Scott's techniques, and tell us what you thought about the beers you did brew with those techniques versus the ones you had been doing. And you'll be surprised how much you get out of hops.
Yeah. Really everybody likes good head. Nobody likes bad head.
And I'll take any head, man. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, not discriminating.
All right. Luke, thanks for writing in. Ladies and gentle homebrewers, we're going to take one more break, and we'll be right back for 1 or 2 more questions, and see you later.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
All right, we're back. This is we're towards the end of our second Q&A. I don't know if anyone on a podcast ever falls in late, Mike. Maybe you missed a previous show, and sometimes we keep themes going show to show. So if you're catching this one, if you're going reverse, I don't think you're hurting yourself by going in reverse. But this is the second half of a doubled up Q&A. We did both of these live on Facebook. The link that we just mentioned in the last question, Mike's graciously going to post that on the Facebook post, and you'll find this video on the Brewing Network's Facebook page. So there in the comments, I think it posts differently. You should post it to the comments on the video, so they have to watch the video to find the link.
That's where I'm doing it. Bam, it's up there.
There you go.
Post
so if you
it.
can't find the link, you just have to watch the video for about 50 minutes. Did I just give that away? No. Sorry.
Gotta watch the whole thing.
That's right. Start to finish. We love our fellow homebrewers. Send us in questions, sit around and listen to us with our mindless banter about brewing beer, because we love beer. All right.
Yeah,
I think we can tackle this one, Mike. I think we have time, and I think you're the right one to tackle it.
All right.
Wes writes in, hello, Jamil and John. I'll forgive him that he meant TC and Mike. That's besides the point. Please consider doing an entire episode or another if I missed it on NEPA. So, Wes, we're going to handle this as a Q&A that could develop into a future show. Please give me tricks. I'm specifically curious about grain bills, hop stands, dry hops, water profile, transferring everything, but I need to know to replicate these beers. How much and what kind of adjunct do I need? Thanks so much for all you do, Wes from Indiana. So Mike, that is quite a bit of a discussion on a recipe and a why. And he had specific questions about every last bit. And I'll say there's thousands of recipes out there. I'd like you to boil it down to what you think the keys are to making a good NEPA. You like to call them hazies. Some people, I call them both, and I mean the same thing.
It's a synonym.
Yeah. Okay. So some high points, important parts, and maybe it's not even what I was asking.
Well, I mean, to kind of work through the recipe real quick, I do think this could be a show where we kind of focus on the different aspects of the recipe, but to really high level, not to be too specific. I would first recommend reading Scott Janish's book, The New IPA, if you have the time and you feel like you would want to do that, because it just goes way further in. But he does still kind of leave it up to you to make your decisions, right? He's not going to tell you what to do. And I'll try to take that approach right now. But again, when we were talking about this pre-show, I was also telling TC that, I really love making hazy. It's one of the main styles I make. I've won gold medals for hazy, and but I'm always still working at it, and I'm always still trying to get it that much better. And I have so much appreciation for the homebrewers and professionals that make these things. It's such an open book for your creativity. That's one of my favorite things about hazy is you can leave your mark on it, and it's actually pretty easy because there's so many ways to do it. But for me, to kind of start off, let's say water profile. I'm not really huge on going nuts with the water. Some people want to throw 300, 400, 500 milligrams per liter chlorides to really push some kind of slickness. I worry that would become annoying, mostly because my beers, I focus on drinkability. I want you to have 2, 3, 4 of them and not have your palate be wiped out, or really done sick of it. I really want you to enjoy. So my salts are kind of mellow. I do have, a 2.5 to 3 to 1 chloride to sulfate ratio. So I am favoring softness, smoothness there. A big one for me that I feel a little unique in this area is haze. BJCP style says the haze should not be murky. It should be a hue. And I actually have had so many good NEPAs and beers that are hazy IPAs that, in my opinion, that you really want a really good permanent orange juice haze, right? You don't want to see through it. You don't want to have any kind of clarity there. When you want a very hazy beer. And so for me, I focus on getting the right balance of adjuncts in the malt bill to really promote that, what I call what is out there is called the colloidal haze, right? So a colloidal suspension of solids in water treatment, because I am a water treatment engineer, is where you kind of get the charge balance right? So the particles are suspended in the water by their own opposite or same charges, and they're kind of pushing each other apart and staying in suspension, and they'll never fall. Like, it's permanent, it's forever. You could put that beer in a fridge for 6 months and pour it out. It'll be hazy as the day you made it. So I have found that wheat malt to about anywhere from 15 to 20%, and then I actually I draw back the oats, because Scott Janish mentioned hop astringency related to oat content, and as well as I feel like the proteins in oats have a propensity to create unstable hazes. So I only use oats.
It's a heavier protein.
Yeah, and there's kind of a for me, those longer, bigger proteins like that you would get in unmalted adjuncts would be those ones that are going to pull down the beer. But I do like using oats because it does present that again, drinkability will bring some smoothness, I feel like, to the beer. So I'm a little bit different. Some people use a lot more oats. Some people use a lot more wheats, like flaked or torrefied or raw wheats was one of the ones that I remember in my early hazy research that people were using to try to throw haze. But I always felt like raw wheats would, again, I've never really used them because I've seen the results from some other people's beers where they meant to make a hazy and it looks West Coast as it West Coast gets, right? Yeah. It ended up bright. So I've kind of dialed in that malt bill that I've now, this one was the same thing. And it's a pale ale. It's not even a hazy IPA. So I did use a lot less grain. And I dialed back the base malt. I kept the adjuncts the same weights. And then I dialed back the base to get it down to less than 6%. Moving on to hops. Again, it's a very, very opinionated, very, very up to you thing. Some people do not do any boil hops. They believe you're trying to push juice. You just want juice, 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 juice. I've always been a fan of that little tiny 5-6 IBU worth of hop at like the 40 minutes remaining in your boil to give it a little bit of like, hey, I'm still a beer. I'm still going to give you a little bit of that cooked hop flavor, aroma stuff.
Yeah, are you using your fancy NEPA style hops? Are you going back to some old school CTZ for that 40-minute edition, or
no?
Or does
so
it matter?
I've been using.
You're doing all the above.
I don't think it matters. This is more of like a bittering kind of edition. Like I said, it's only so for my 10-gallon batches of hazy, I'm using about a half ounce of, and I've been using Bravo. I like it's a high alpha, but it does bring a lot of lemon. Yeah, if it does leave any flavor at all. So I like, and it's got a lot of hop survivables, as some of the research has shown. So
it's a good base hop for some biotransforming, etc. Nice.
Yeah, so that one's been good, and then I'm doing a big whirlpool. Like I'm talking. I like to do double whirlpool charges, so I'll do 10 minutes, charge it again for another 10 minutes, like add more, and I'm up in the 1 ounce per gallon amount of hops in there. So yeah, a lot of whirlpool. And then
Is that per, you doing 10 and 10 or you doing 5 and 5 on that
I'm
whirlpool?
doing 10-10. So 10 minutes, then I add 10 minutes. And usually I'm kind of letting
the
the
10 ounces
the
and
thing.
10 ounces or 5 ounces? Because you said 1 ounce per.
Oh, no, 1 ounce per is the total split into 2 charges.
So 5 and 5. Yeah, yeah.
5 and 5.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, this is kind of what I've been working on, and kind of I'm giving you my inside track. And if you want to use it, go ahead.
I'm really close numbers, believe it or not. I do it as a single whirlpool, but I'm really close numbers to that on my whirlpool. I do anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe 7 ounces on a 5-gallon batch whirlpool. But I only do it as one. I hadn't split it up. Yes, we're similar rates. I think that's a good. I think that you get great flavor from about that rate. Honestly, I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool to hear that I'm not alone, and that it's making good beer, I think. And so,
oh yeah.
And then I have people that I've talked to that swear by, early dry hops, hop dipping, at the end of fermentation, at the, kind of towards the end of fermentation. I think all of them work to a certain extent. It's up to you to really try it out, see if you like it, see how it turns out for you. There's different hop varietals are going to do different things when they're added at different times. So see, it's like there is a infinite combination, but for me, I've been really focusing around allowing fermentation to finish completely, and then after fermentation, and after a maturation rest where I've raised the temperature to push all that diacetyl precursor out, then I chill it to 58, and then I will do either a double, triple dry hop where, for home brewing, I found that, 2 ounces a gallon is kind of the top for me. I get pretty hop burn if I go any further than that. It'll go away, but I kind of find it's not necessary. I mean, I know that some of the pro brewers out there are going nuts. I mean, they're doing, 5, 6, 7 pounds per barrel, which equates to, 3, 4, 5 ounces a gallon.
And sometimes I think they're talking hop equivalent. Like, they're using products. They're using Incognito. They're using Salvo. They're using all kinds of things. I think if they added as much hops as they're saying they're added, then they wouldn't have any beer to sell, because it would all be
in the market.
Squeezing hops to get.
I will say
the beer out.
Yeah, I will say my method is not the most efficient in terms of beer loss, but I've also felt like I've used hop products. I haven't used the ones you sent me yet. I really want to do that, but like I used some of the like the cryos and the more the concentrated pellets, and I felt like the flavor just wasn't the same. I'm kind of a naturalist, I guess, and you get more of a flavor bouquet. Like you get kind of this complexity with T90 pellets that you don't get with some of these processed hop products. And that's, your mileage may vary. Maybe you find one that it just plays well. The synergy's great. I haven't yet.
When I use those products, I use them as a blend, and I don't back off. They tell you, oh, this 1 ounce is as good as 2. No. This 1 ounce is as good as 1. I do it 1 for 1, and I can do that as a home brewer. Because I do use, can afford that. I do use cryos and stuff. And I use T90s a lot, and I even use hop hash. Man, I got some Idaho 7 hop hash the other day that was ridiculous. But I blended it with regular pellets.
And that's where, again, this is like my working process that I keep refining, and I just find that I won quite a few medals with this process. So just kind of my tips and tricks from my personal decisions I've made. So and then I'm a big proponent of getting that beer off the hops and into some sort of bright tank, and this is where I feel like people kind of look at me sideways when I say no, hazy has to be aged. I think if you really want to make the best hazies in the world, they are allowed to cold store, condition for at least 2 weeks, up to 4 weeks with your really hot. And I would say that's kind of more time with more dry hop. So kind of allowing that, it's almost like allowing the dust to settle, right? Like, and not in terms of like the haze to drop out. It's like the flavor to kind of show you what it is, like the fog to clear, and then you can kind of see those hops expressing themselves, and you really can start to pick out the different flavors and hop contributions instead of it just being kind of this general fruit, right? when they're very young, my hazies, when they're very young, they have kind of this almost same flavor for all. So like I brewed this beer with 100% Simcoe, and it had that general fruit haze flavor until it got to about 10 days, 12 days in the keg or in your bright tank or whatever you're using to age your beer.
Yeah.
And
So-
I'm a
so
big proponent of that.
It's not a popular opinion, but my opinion is that early flavor is British L5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
you have to
just
let
kind
some
of
of
a
that settle out.
general.
I mean,
Yeah.
if I buy a NEPA at the store, I'm going to put it in the fridge for a couple of days before I touch it. And I usually, I don't want to buy a 4-pack of all these $40 a 4-pack. And they're not that expensive, thank goodness.
Oh yeah.
But they're not cheap. So I'll try to buy 2. And I'll wait a few days before I have the first one. And I'll wait a few more days before I have the second one. And do my best not to disturb the stuff that settles out in the can that never should have made it to the can. Because
this is good stuff.
yeah, they think that they're giving their beers time before they can them, but the average brewery is not. They're not
They
giving
got to
enough
turn
time.
and burn.
Yeah. Hey, 4 days in the bright, we're done. Can it, ship it.
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where if you're home brewing and you're really going after that, holy crap, this is delicious. 2 to 4 weeks, I would say somewhere in there, and try it almost every day. Maybe give it a couple of days off if it's really young.
Yeah.
And as you make these, you'll get to like, damn, that's a brand new hazy, And I would say even after the first couple you make, those first couple of days of trying it, you'll be like, yep, that's just a totally brand new. It's not ready. And as you let it sit, I'm convinced that, man, they usually, like, if you were trying to feature a certain hop that the flavor, like Nelson or Idaho 7 or Mosaic or some of these, like, they're going to be obscured at first, and you can't pick it out with your and then if you wait, you'll start to get those really distinct, like, oh, there it is. There's that.
Yeah.
There's that Mosaic. There's that Nelson and Motueka, like the grassy, funky lime. You kind of got to wait for it though. So it's that's my big tip. And then I guess on top of that whole cold conditioning, none of that's happening if you don't purge the keg or your conditioning vessel properly. Like, if you allow oxygen in that vessel at any point, you can just kiss that beer goodbye, because hazy is as sensitive as it gets to oxygen, and those flavors are so delicate that, I mean, buy you a hazy at the store, pour it in a cup, and leave it out for a couple hours, and it's gone.
Don't.
I mean, in like a couple hours. I mean, we're not talking days. So,
so Wes, you asked us all about making an IPA, and instead, I think we gave you as the highlights, because you can go out there and you can get dozens and dozens of recipes for NEPAs, and honestly, find the ones you like. You probably already found the ones you like, especially considering when you may have sent this question in. And look at the information the brewery is willing to offer you, because they're all doing their own different thing. And really make sure you give it time to understand what that beer really tastes like after some settling, because that's what you're going to brew. If you're trying to match a 7-day-old NEPA flavor, well, none of what Mike just told you really matters, because that 7-day-old NEPA flavors they all taste the same at that point.
Yeah,
or a lot of
they're
them
all
do.
just
Very
kind of
simple.
a very, There's a lot of you. I mean,
all right.
Juice, the Juice, London Fog, London Ale 3. Those are the same yeast genetically, essentially, and so they're going to give that flavor.
Yep.
So I hope I helped.
Right. I think those are great tips. And honestly, if you're not picking up on what Mike said, listen to it a few times and apply some of those to your technique and to your recipe, and you'll make better and better NEPAs, because I stand behind everything that Mike just said on NEPAs.
Thank you.
My experience is the
I appreciate
same.
it.
And I've had Mike's NEPAs. They're outstanding. Whew.
Thank you.
So man, that's 2 Q&As in the books for tonight. I think it's wrapping up on that one, and then our next show planned, if plans work out for a change, 2 weeks we're going to be back. We're going to do cask ale, and we're going to have a professional brewer talking about cask ales. But don't worry, we're applying this to homebrew techniques. We're not going to talk about just what a pro does. And when I say pro, we're talking Hogshead in Denver, Colorado. They make outstanding British cask ales. So we're going to help you adapt some of these concepts so you can homebrew your own cask ale. It's going to be a great show. Mike, you're going to be there, I hope.
Oh yeah, I got questions.
Good. That'll make great conversation. And we'll have our good buddy Neil Spake who'll be on also. Everyone listening in, don't forget to help our sponsors out. By helping them, I mean get your good products from our great sponsors. And our number one sponsor here, Blickman Engineering. They've been with us for longer than I can count, evidently. I've had too many beers to remember how many years they've been supporting this show, because Blickman's always been here. They make the best products I know across the board. I mean, no, there's other great equipment out there also, but you're not going to buy a Blickman piece of gear and say, man, I don't know. There's no buyer's remorse with Blickman. They just make outstanding products. I guess I just gush over them because I like their equipment so much.
And they're good people.
They are.
They're damn good people.
That Drew show is outstanding.
Yeah.
So
that was a
if you
great
missed
show.
the Drew show, go back, listen to the Drew show. We didn't label it the Drew show. You'll be able to figure out which one it is. And we'll be talking to you in a few weeks. Brew strong, everybody.
Brew strong.